Let's transition into freedom. I know this isn't a topic that too many people get excited about, but I promise you will be after this workshop. We're going to talk about how to get excited about politics, how to drive your passion, and get engaged with the political world around you.
Congratulations on starting to write a new chapter in your life. I'm CIVIC LEADERS. I am the co-founder of the Policy Circle. We're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to inform, inspire, and develop civic leaders. You might be wondering, what are civic leaders? Civic leaders are people who try to make a difference in their community by tackling really tough issues. What kind of issues? Well, issues that we all face. Issues of how do we create an environment where it's easy for businesses to not only be started, but also to grow? How do we connect people in underserved community to jobs and alleviate poverty? How do we make healthcare not only affordable, but also accessible and of really high quality? How do we organize our elections so they are fair and they are true? How do we engage a whole community to really create an environment where everyone can thrive? So that's civic engagement, and those are civic leaders. So how do we do that? Well, we do it in a really simple way, and it's through roundtable discussions. We invite women like yourself to start a circle, perhaps within your She Factor group, and host a series of roundtable discussions around these issues. We have a library of briefs where you can come prepared and informed to engage in a really constructive way, and at the same time learn to be confident, articulate your views, and share your perspective. So we invite you to visit thepolicycircle.org to learn more and perhaps become a circle leader. So the Policy Circle is really at this intersection of leadership and policy and community. So for this workshop, what we thought we'd do is share with you a video that we produced as part of the overall series of videos on leadership that's about power and ambition. Those are two words that sometimes as women, we don't necessarily fully embrace these words and fully think about it as we are plotting the course of our life. So featured in this video are myself, it's a fireside chat with myself, Erin Wolf, who is a seasoned executive coach, and Crystal Bonham, who's an entrepreneur, spin instructor, and also a circle leader based in Austin, Texas. The second video features circle leaders from around the country that share their experience and why the Policy Circle experience matters to them. So we hope you enjoyed this workshop, and we look forward seeing you on thepolicycircle.org.
Let's talk about one of the pillars of leadership, which is power. Power. How does it make you feel?
You know, I love a hate relationship. I feel it's something that you need to have, but it's really double-edged because there's some real negative connotations to it about how you get power, and also it doesn't resonate with me. I prefer the word influence, becoming an influencer.
How do you feel, Crystal?
I think, especially as a woman, it just makes you feel uncomfortable because I think typically power is reserved not necessarily for men, but for just these leadership positions that kind of seem out of reach for a lot of people. And it's historically kind of a dirty word, where when you think about power, you think about people who use power not for good, that use it for harm, to achieve a specific agenda, if you will. And it ends up being more of a negative on society than a positive.
It's interesting though, when I ask around, women were actually positive about it. There was like a positive connotation. So I have a little bit of a mixed feeling about it. Yeah. Why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, well, I like to think of power as influence. I like to use the word power, but power as the ability to influence others, because you can do one of the two things in order to get where you want to go. You can work really hard, or work harder than you are now, or you can influence others to help you along the way. And this is one of the reasons why power is important. But let me just throw this out, and then I'd like to get your reaction. Studies have shown that those who are interested in gaining power are actually better at their jobs. They get farther than others, but they're also better at their jobs. So it's not a bad thing in that sense. Power is what you make it. Power can be bad, but it can be very good, and it can be very freeing if you have power and influence people to do great things, which both of you do, of course. So maybe we can think of power as something that's not a dirty, bad word, but is something that we need in order to increase our level of leadership. And rather than push it away, think about how we can embrace it. As we talk about power, there are various stages of power, and I'd be very interested in how you feel about each of them, whether you've been in them, and let me describe what each of them is first, and then we can discuss them. I find them interesting. The first is powerlessness. All been there. Obviously, that's when you feel that you have no power at all, and maybe others see it too. The next one is power by association, and that's you are associated with someone or with an organization or company that has power, and therefore you have power because you're associated with that power. The other is power by achievement. You have achieved something on your own, and because of that, you have power. Others want to follow you. And then the last is power by reflection. This is the holy grail. And this is power because of your reputation for knowledge, your reputation maybe even for introspection and learning more about yourself. And so people will come to you because of that.
Well, first, I find it interesting on how you define the different types of power, because it's almost like we're turning on these little switches in our mind to turn on that leadership presence. And power is one switch. And if you can label the type of power that you are in or that you don't have or that you want, I think that's really helpful for your growth and positioning yourself towards a path of developing strong leadership skills.
Being able to equip yourself with the tools that you need to get to that next level. If you can identify where you're at in this, I guess, cycle of power or pyramid or whatever you want to call it in these stages, if you can identify where you're at and what you need to continue and move forward into that next level, then I think it gives you an advantage.
I would make a distinction between power by association and your network. Everybody needs a great network. Whether I have power by reflection, power by achievement, my network is there, and who I know is very important. And we will be able to talk about that as well. But power by association means that I am drawing my power from others. Not others are getting power from me, or others are following me because of me. So the last two, the power by achievement and power by reflection, are much more about what I have done rather than what somebody else has done. I can still have a great network. Crystal, I want you to think about this. When you think of power by reflection, can you think of somebody that you would go to or that you are drawn to that might have power by reflection?
Well, you think of your mentors, right? The people you turn to who are, I guess, in my scenario, would be a little bit older and more experienced and wiser in an industry or, whatever my question may be pertaining to that. So I think power by reflection would be someone who I would aspire to want to be like someday, and recognizing that they have more experience and so they have that to offer to me.
I love that point because I hadn't thought about it that way. Power by achievement is wonderful. I might not always want to be like someone who has achieved power, who has gotten power by achievement. I may respect them. But the power by reflection is often someone I want to be like. Because I view that person as introspective enough that that person is less biased. That person may be able to give me a better viewpoint on things rather than just that person's viewpoint. So it's interesting. I'm going to give you a personal example. My career in business was all about achievement. Even in college, sports, that sort of thing was always about achievement. And since I started my own business and have focused more on understanding really women and leadership and how to succeed in the workplace, I have been able to reflect on what I think are the right competencies, what I think are the right ways to do things, etc. And I find people coming to me for my opinions and to discuss things where they want to just banty an idea back and forth, and they know that I might do that in an unbiased way with an open mind.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Right. Just more being thoughtful and reflective about and a level of expertise in a domain or in an industry. I'd love to go back to the powerlessness because and define that a little bit further. I know that I've been feeling sometimes powerless when you don't have all the information. And so how do we get out of that? How do we say, okay, I am powerless, here's why, and how do I switch that?
Let me throw a question out to you, because all of us have been in the powerlessness stage, and at some point we all go screaming back there again. And that may be because we are doing something that's different from what we are used to doing. So how does it make you feel if you're in the powerlessness stage for some reason? You're into something new, for example, that you haven't done before. Can you dig back into your background and say, okay, I may feel this way now, but how did I feel when I was doing something before and I was in a different stage?
How about in your business, like in the communications world? Are there times that you feel powerless or, powerlessness, not power, no, powerless.
Powerlessness?
Yeah.
Powerlessness?
Yeah, well, I think in the world of communications, especially as it pertains to social media, for instance, things are changing every day. And so you kind of wake up every day, Facebook crashes or this new piece of technology is out. And so you're always kind of having to adapt, learn these new algorithms, figure out the best way to serve your clients and be successful in that. And so am I in the powerlessness stage? No, but you kind of see it pop up, I guess, in your daily life.
Yeah, right. I think it's helpful to have those definitions because it helps just understand the situation that you're in. Instead of being panicked, then you could say, oh, this is this power play that I'm in right now, and how do I shift that around? How do I get out of it? And they're not necessarily, like you were pointing out, they're not bad.
Yeah.
They're just different situations that are part of being a leader in a way, or developing as a leader.
That's right. And when I find myself in the powerless stage, and I still do too, I think of the difference between ignorance and unintelligence. And I say, okay, am I unintelligent or am I just ignorant about this situation that I'm in or this new thing that I'm doing? So I was ignorant about things when I first started my own business, but I knew I wasn't unintelligent and I could learn what I needed to learn.
Right.
The other thing that I would think about, to interject on the power by association, I would caution women to not get stuck there, because studies show that men are more typically in the past, I think this is changing, have been in the power by achievement stage, whereas women have been more typically in the power by association. And power by association is great, but that shouldn't be your home forever.
Do you think there's a barrier that you can identify between those two stages? Because it kind of seems like powerlessness, everybody starts there.
Yeah.
Power by association is kind of getting your foot in the door. But why is that jump to power by achievement
Is it
so
stages
challenging?
or just it's not necessarily like I'm not sure there's necessarily a hierarchy
Right.
of power, right? It's just different types of power that
Right.
you are in,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
you move in and out.
Yes, because
say?
I do not have to go through power by association in order to get power by achievement. For
That
example,
could
when
come
I was playing
first.
tennis tournaments, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have an association. I just
Yeah, that's
started
true.
playing tournaments and achieved, and so that's how I got power. What's interesting here as we talk about these different stages, now all of a sudden we're talking about power, and nobody seems to be having a problem with power.
When I was learning about the policy circle and talking to Sylvia about it, I realized that there was a big gap with women my age who want to be educated about policy and about politics and don't know where to go to get those facts. I was immediately really excited to share that with my friends. It is such a new concept and an exciting idea for women to be able to be educated and empowered in a way that they haven't been before.
It was exciting to have women in a room talking about politics in a very nonpartisan way, educating ourselves on something new that we've never talked about in a social situation. I really enjoyed getting involved in the policy circle. I've met some amazing women. We've had some terrific bipartisan discussions on some very complex and weighty issues. And at the end of the day, if the women that come to my policy circle can feel more empowered and stronger about talking about these issues, then I think it's a successful meeting.
I consider myself a connector generally. I like meeting people and I like solving problems for people. And I think a great way to solve a problem for somebody is to introduce them to some knowledge or another person that shares their interests. I know that most of the women that I've introduced to this are extremely busy. They're busy with career and families, and I've been amazed to see that notwithstanding how busy they all are, they're very excited about allocating some of their precious time to the circles and to finding other people to join them in the circles and to doing the pre-work, if you will, to come prepared. I just think that's great, and that to me is evidence that there's a lot of value in it, because if it weren't valuable, people wouldn't make it a priority.
People are always asking, well, what do you do? What is your follow through from the policy circle meetings? And it's actually just the conversation we have, because after that conversation, we go out into the community and start talking to our friends, our colleagues, our clients, other professionals, and we bring up some of the topics we've discussed in the policy circle. And all of a sudden, someone else is interested in joining and someone else wants to join the conversation.
When we wrote the op-ed piece for the Business Journal, and it was mentioned that I have been in conversations with the former mayor of St. Louis, and that all came about really because I started focusing on St. Louis and the civic community here. One person can make a difference. One person can be a catalyst for change in a community.
We're really excited at TD Ameritrade to partner with the Policy Circle in developing a brief around financial literacy. It's been incredibly important for us as a firm and for me personally to do that. So I think as we go forward, we really want to empower women to ask questions regardless of where they're at in their learning journey, whether they're beginner, intermediate, more advanced. We want people to come together in a safe space to have those conversations, ask those tough questions, and just learn more and feel like they're getting the knowledge they need to move forward. Part of the journey is to say, okay, this is where I am in my path, this is where I want to get to, and then really chart a course, set some learning goals, and just dig in as hard as you can.
Women that are in the policy circle can help get involved or help those that maybe are looking for some support in financial literacy or further education is by doing or speaking at such things as the Smart Women, Smart Money Conference.
Here in Indiana, we've created the Indiana State Leadership Council. The State Leadership Council in Indiana is a group of women who came forward, and they're working together to create growth, more policy circles across the state, to get more engaged around issues, which means they can come together and do things together and activate together. So this year they're doing a lot around the centennial anniversary of women's suffrage in Indiana.
I'm such a fan of the Policy Circle. I'm an attorney, so I've always kind of been interested in policy. I've practiced law, I've helped run companies, I help companies transition. Thanks to Sylvie, she kind of reignited the passion that I had for policy in general and allowed me to have a voice so that I could carry on my true original passion, which was policy.
I'm a pediatrician. Well, I was first invited to a circle of one of my neighbors, and I was really interested because the topic was about something related to finances, and that was completely out of my comfort zone. You know, I have a science background. I really didn't ever learn much about economics, so that was interesting to me because it was like a new subject for me to learn about. The more I learned about Policy Circle, the more interesting it was to me. I love the idea of meeting with women and hearing their own opinions, their perspectives, their own histories when it related to policy matters.
There's not a woman I have met yet that has nothing to say in our Policy Circle meeting. Even if you think that you are not interested in policy, we all have input in this. We all have skin in the game. We are all part of the problem. We are all part of the solution.
There's kind of two paths. You can accept the life that society or your employer or whoever defines for you, or you can intentionally design and build a life where you thrive. And for me, the Policy Circle is just an extension of that.